I never used to believe in ghosts. Sure, I'd heard stories, but I always thought they were just that. Stories. That changed one night at the Grand Crest Hotel, and I haven't been the same since. I had been working as a night receptionist for about 6 months. The hotel was old, built in the early 1900s, but still in great shape, with high ceilings, chandeliers, and a grand piano in the lounge that gave it a classic, almost haunting beauty. Most nights were quiet, with only a few late check-ins or guests wandering in for a drink, but something about the place felt off at night. The hallways stretched into darkness, and the air carried an unsettling weight, like someone was always watching. That night, around 2 a.m., I was chatting with Miguel, the night janitor, at the front desk when we heard it. The piano. A slow, creeping melody drifted through the air. It was subtle at first, almost blending into the hum of the hotel's heating system. Miguel and I exchanged glances. "You hear that?" I asked. Miguel frowned. "Yeah, but no one's in the lounge." I pushed away from the desk, trying to convince myself it was just a guest. But as we rounded the corner, the music stopped. The room was empty. The grand piano sat in the center of the lounge, its glossy surface reflecting the dim chandelier light. A chill ran down my spine. "Maybe it was just the wind," Miguel muttered. I shot him a look. "Wind. Making a piano play?" He shrugged, but his face was pale. "You'd be surprised what I've seen working here." I stepped closer to the piano. My fingers barely brushed the surface when the lid of the piano slammed shut. Miguel swore and stumbled backward. The sound echoed through the empty lounge. Then, the piano bench scraped against the floor, not slid. Moved, like someone unseen had shoved it back with force. And then I felt it. Presence. Cold, suffocating, standing right behind me. I turned slowly, my breath hitching, and the chandelier lights flickered. Then I saw it. A reflection in the piano's polished surface. A woman. She stood inches from me, her dress a deep shade of red, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders. Her face was twisted in an expression of rage, her eyes hollow, black. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. I gasped and stumbled back. The air around me thickened, pressing against my chest. Miguel grabbed my arm. "Run!" I turned to sprint toward the lobby, but something grabbed me. An invisible hand clamped around my wrist, yanking me backward. My feet dragged against the carpet as I struggled. "Help me," I choked out. Miguel lunged forward, grabbing my other arm and pulling with all his strength. For a second, I thought I was free, until a force threw me across the room. I crashed into a table, sending glasses shattering to the floor. My vision blurred. The sound of Miguel shouting felt distant, like I was underwater. Then, whispers. Dozens of voices, all speaking at once. Hushed, desperate. "He knows. Leave now. She won't let you go." I scrambled to my feet, my pulse hammering. The chandelier lights flickered violently. Then, in the reflection of the piano, I saw the woman, charging toward me. I turned and bolted. Miguel and I sprinted toward the staff exit. The doors slammed shut behind us the moment we crossed the threshold. We didn't stop running until we were outside in the freezing night air. Neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. I quit the next day without explanation. Miguel left a week later. We never talked about it again. But sometimes, late at night, I swear I still hear that piano playing in my dreams. I've worked security for years, graveyard shifts, Empty buildings. The usual. It's a simple job. You watch, you listen, and most of the time, nothing happens. But there was one night, one building, that changed everything for me. I was assigned to an abandoned office complex on the outskirts of town. It had been empty for years, but for some reason, the owners still paid for overnight security. They told me my job was simple. Walk the perimeter, check the doors, make sure no squatters got in. Easy money. Or so I thought. The first few nights were uneventful. The place was dead silent, the kind of quiet that messes with your head. Floors covered in dust, paint peeling off the walls, a faint mildew smell in the air. My flashlight barely cut through the darkness, but I kept my rounds consistent. Then, on my fourth night, I noticed something strange. A door I knew was locked before was open. It was in the basement, at the end of a long corridor lined with storage rooms. A heavy steel door rusted at the hinges, marked maintenance access. I hesitated. I hadn't seen this door open before. Had someone broken in? I radioed my supervisor. No response. I gripped my flashlight tighter and pushed the door open. It groaned loudly, revealing a narrow set of stairs leading down into darkness. There was no reason for stairs to be there. I had seen the blueprints for this place. The basement was supposed to be a single level. No sublevels, no tunnels, nothing. But this was something else. I should have walked away. Should have locked the door and pretended I never saw it. But I didn't. I stepped inside. The air was stale, thick with dust. The stairs creaked under my boots as I descended, the beam of my flashlight bouncing off cracked concrete walls. The deeper I went, the colder it got. My breath started to fog, and I could feel the weight of the air pressing down on me. At the bottom of the stairs was another door. This one wasn't metal. It was old, wooden, almost ancient looking, with deep scratches gouged into the surface. Something about it made my skin crawl. I reached for the handle, and the moment I touched it, a sound came from the other side. A slow, dragging shuffle. I froze. Then came the whispering. Low, hushed voices, overlapping in a way that made my stomach twist. I couldn't make out the words, but they were right there, just beyond the door. I took a step back, my instincts screaming at me to leave. But then, the door unlocked. Not by me. I heard it. The slow, deliberate click of a deadbolt sliding open. And then, the door creaked open on its own. A gust of icy air rushed out, carrying with it a stench so foul it made my eyes water, like rotten meat left in the sun. I lifted my flashlight, and that's when I saw them. Figures. Dozens of them. Hunched, crawling figures, pale and emaciated, their limbs contorted in unnatural ways. Their eyes, God, their eyes, were hollow black pits that seemed to pull the light in. And when they saw me, they moved. Fast. I stumbled back, slamming into the wall as they rushed forward, their bony fingers scraping against the floor, the walls, each other. Their mouths hung open, lips cracked and bleeding, but no sound came out, just the whispering. A chorus of voices, hissing, muttering, chanting something I wasn't meant to hear. I turned and ran. I didn't care how steep the stairs were. I sprinted, nearly tripping over myself as I scrambled upward. The whispering turned into screaming, not just from them, but from inside my head. It was deafening, splitting through my skull like a drill. I hit the top of the stairs and threw myself against the maintenance door, slamming it shut behind me. The second it closed, silence. No screams, no whispers, just the sound of my own ragged breathing. I locked the door, shoved a metal cabinet in front of it, and got the hell out of there. I quit that night. Left my badge, my radio, everything. I never told my supervisor what I found. Never told anyone. My name is Jake. I've worked the night shift at gas stations before, but nothing compares to what happened that night. I'm not crazy. I know what I saw. It started like any other shift. Just me and my coworker, Ben, stuck in the middle of nowhere, watching the clock tick painfully slow. The station was old, the kind of place people only stopped at when they were desperate. The roads were dead, no cars, no sound except for the flickering buzz of the neon open sign outside. At around 2 a.m., the power flickered, just for a second, like something had sucked the energy out of the air. Ben glanced up from his phone. "Did you see that?" I nodded, but didn't think much of it. Old wiring, probably. Then I noticed something. The freezer door, the heavy metal one in the back that led to storage, was slightly open. I knew for a fact it had been shut. I had locked it myself. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. "Did you go in the freezer?" Ben shook his head. "Not since we stocked it earlier." I grabbed the keys and walked toward the back. The air felt wrong. Not just cold, but heavy, like something was watching. I hesitated, then yanked the freezer door open. A thick mist rolled out, and for a second, I couldn't see anything. But then, something moved. A shape. Tall, impossibly tall, standing between the shelves of frozen goods. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. But as the mist settled, I saw it clearly. It was wrong. Its limbs were too long, its head slightly tilted in a way that made my stomach turn. It had no eyes, no mouth, just a shifting mass of darkness, like a living shadow. Then it stepped forward. The lights flickered violently. The freezer's hum turned into a high-pitched whine. And then, in a voice that wasn't a voice, something forced its way into my head. "You shouldn't be here." I stumbled back, crashing into Ben, who had just come up behind me. His eyes widened. "Jake, what the hell is that?" Before I could answer, it moved, not walked, lunged. I barely had time to react before the freezer door slammed shut on its own, rattling in its frame. "Run!" I yelled, grabbing Ben's arm. We sprinted for the front of the store, but the lights cut out completely, plunging us into darkness. Then came the footsteps. Heavy. Fast, right behind us. I didn't dare look back. I just ran, my heart hammering in my chest. I could feel it closing the distance. We burst through the door into the empty parking lot, gasping for breath. The station's flickering neon sign barely lit the area, but I didn't need more light to know it was still coming. Ben grabbed my arm. The car. My car was parked off to the side near the edge of the lot. I fumbled with my keys, hands shaking. The footsteps were getting louder. I turned. It was there, standing just at the edge of the light, its head tilted, watching. I threw open the driver's side door, barely waiting for Ben to get in before I started the engine. The headlights hit the thing full on. For a split second, I saw it clearly. Its body wasn't just black. It was like a void, sucking in the light around it. And its limbs. They were stretching, reaching toward us. I slammed the gas. The tires screeched as we peeled out of the lot. I glanced in the rearview mirror. It was still chasing us. Its legs moved unnaturally fast, like a puppet on strings. The headlights barely kept up with it. "Faster!" Ben shouted. I floored it. The car roared down the empty highway, the speedometer climbing. 40, 50, 60. Then, it was gone. I didn't slow down, not until we were miles away. When I finally pulled over, both of us sat there in stunned silence, trying to process what had just happened. Neither of us spoke about it after that night. We both quit a few days later. I don't know what it was, or why it was there.